Welcome everyone, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Bienvenidos a todos, gracias por acompañarnos esta tarde. My name is Mariana Diaz and I'm the HUD Grants Administrator for the City and County of Denver. Mi nombre es Mariana Diaz y soy la administradora de los fondos de HUD para la ciudad de Denver. Vamos a empezar en unos momentos. We will get started momentarily. But before we get started, antes de empezar, I want to let you all know that live closed captioning is available in Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Hmong, Korean, and Vietnamese. Quiero dejarles saber que la reunión de hoy tiene subtítulos disponibles en español, árabe, chino, Hmong, coreano y vietnamita. To turn on live closed captions, please follow the instructions on the slide. Para activar los subtítulos, por favor, siga las instrucciones en la diapositiva. Additionally, before we get started, I want to ask you all to take the time to please introduce yourselves and if you're representing an organization or a group in the Q&A box. También quiero pedirles que tomen este tiempo para introducirse en la chat box de preguntas y respuestas. And so now I will kick it off to Rachel King, who will get us started.
Thank you, Mariana. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our public meeting. My name is Rachel King, and I'm the Director of Administration and Federal Compliance at Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. This public meeting will focus on Denver's funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This funding is used by both Denver Economic Development and Opportunity and the Department of Housing Stability to support business development, neighborhood development, and housing activities in the city and county of Denver. Our agenda today will focus on three main topics. First, we will provide a background and overview of our planning process for HUD-funded programs. Second, we will review a proposed amendment to our 2020 HUD Action Plan. And third, we will review the funding proposals in our draft 2021 HUD Action Plan.
As Rachel just shared, the bulk of this presentation will be taking a look at our annual action plan and the amendment for our 2020 annual action plan. But before we get to that, we will review our HUD programs and planning process. This will be a high-level overview of the funding that we receive from HUD and the planning process we undertake to receive those funds. So the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, provides state and local governments with several grant funds on an annual basis. Denver receives four main HUD grants: the Community Development Block Grants, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, the Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS, and the Emergency Solutions Grant. Additionally, it was announced as part of the American Rescue Plan that Denver will receive additional home funds. However, while we are anticipating this award, HUD has not yet released details on how municipalities should go about applying for these funds or additional program details. To receive our funds, Denver must complete several studies and plans and submit them to HUD. First, we complete a 5-year strategic plan called the Consolidated Plan, or CON Plan. As part of that plan, Denver evaluates housing and community development needs and creates goals and priorities for the 5-year period to address those needs. Then for each program year under the CON Plan, Denver must create an annual action plan to identify specific priorities and projects. The 2020 Action Plan is the third action plan and program year under our 5-year consolidated plan. In addition to these plans, Denver also conducts a fair housing study called an analysis of impediments to fair housing choice once every 5 years. This study reviews impediments or barriers in access to housing and economic opportunities. Denver completed its last analysis of impediments in 2019 as a regional effort. and that information is applied to the con plan and each subsequent action plan within the strategic goals that we will go over in a couple of slides. All of these documents are available on our website at any time. The link is in this slide, and these slides will be posted after our meeting today. Additionally, to create the annual action plans and use HUD funding, Denver follows a public planning process. Typically, Denver will publish a draft consolidated or action plan for 30 days. This year, we have made the 2021 annual action plan and the amended 2020 annual action plan available from April 5th through May 5th. At the close of this comment period on May 5th, we will incorporate the comments received into the plans and submit them to HUD for review and approval. It is only till after we've received HUD's approval we not only can begin the process to receive grant funds from HUD, but we will post the final documents on our website. This process is further outlined in our citizen participation plan, which is also available online. So this year we began our annual planning process by implementing a new strategy using a community pulse survey, which is a brief opportunity for the community to provide current feedback year to year within the 5-year con plan period. Each annual survey will help inform the current year's annual action plan. The survey asks for community's input from different perspectives. This year, the survey was available from January 25th through February 15th, and we had 76 respondents between businesses, nonprofits, and residents. The top 5 funding priorities identified included housing, homelessness, small business support, nonprofit support, and neighborhood support. Next, we'll continue to go over a little bit more in depth the consolidated plan and the annual action plan. So as we saw earlier, the HUD Consolidated Plan reviews housing and community development needs in order to establish goals and strategies over a 5-year period. The comp plan tells us how we will allocate our federal funds to address these needs. As referred to earlier, Denver's 2019 to 2023 con plan identified 7 strategic goals which were informed by the con plan process as well as by the Fair Housing Study. They are to create and preserve housing affordability, accessibility, and quality, to support businesses and workforce development, to foster equitable access to city and neighborhood amenities and services, to assist people who are homeless and at risk of homelessness, assist populations with special needs, assist persons living with HIV and AIDS, to affirmatively further fair housing. Additional information on these goals can be reviewed in our 2019-2023 Consolidated Plan, which is again available on our website.
Okay, thank you, Mariana. Now we will move forward to review the proposed amendment to the 2020 HUD Action Plan. The 2020 Action Plan from HUD included a project funded with Cdbg CV dollars. These were special Cdbg dollars awarded to Denver under the CARES Act for homelessness support specifically. The plan originally indicated these dollars would be used for program support services. However, given the impact of COVID on Denver's homelessness resources, Denver has had to increase resources allocated to shelter services specifically. Therefore, the dollars will be used to support the same or similar projects, but as part of the facilities plan as opposed to the services plan. And now we will discuss the proposed funding from the draft 2021 HUD Action Plan. In 2021, Denver expects to receive funding under 4 HUD grants, as we usually do, as outlined here. Note that Denver also expects to receive additional home funding under the American Rescue Plan, as Mariana mentioned earlier, of roughly $10.8 million. However, HUD must first establish specific program rules for this funding to align with the priorities identified by Congress in the American Rescue Plan. So guidance on how to apply for the funding, as well as how to use the funding, will not be issued by HUD until late summer or fall of this year. Once Denver receives further instruction on how to apply and use the funding, we will prepare an amended action plan for 2021 for public review and comment, similar to this process that we're going through now. At this time, none of the proposed projects under the 2021 action plan include this funding. So our next few slides review the proposed project funding under each program area. This slide shows our housing programs using home and Cdbg funds. First, we have a couple of projects for our community housing development organizations. These organizations are very specific organizations that meet certain criteria under the home grant rules. If you are an organization that is qualified, you probably know that already. But there are certain requirements that we have to work with these organizations under the home grant, and these 2 initial activities are for those funding uses. Next, we have a couple of Cdbg funded activities and we'll go back one, Mariana. Yep, thank you. First is down payment assistance. This is assisting first-time home buyers to support their down payment for housing. Housing access and modification. This is a rehab program where units can be rehabbed to provide additional accessibility support or modifications to the unit for accessibility purposes. Housing support in the form of housing counseling and things like tenant and landlord counseling. Rental housing and development. This is a home-funded project. This is for the development of rental housing or the preservation of rental housing units. Emergency rehabilitation and single-family rehabilitation are rehab support services for specific housing units where an emergency systems upgrade might be needed, or some more substantial upgrades might be needed to a housing unit. And then tenant-based rental assistance under home is to support tenant payments of rent for their rental unit. Then we have a few economic development projects. So our revolving loan fund and our neighborhood business revitalization projects are primarily projects used to support small businesses, entrepreneurs, expanding businesses in the city and county of Denver to provide gap financing. Those programs create jobs for lower moderate income individuals as a result of that investment. So we have a couple of Cdbg projects for those. We also have economic development initiatives. These types of programs support business technical assistance services. So helping small businesses and entrepreneurs with business support, things like ongoing training or expansion. And we often focus on target neighborhoods from our NEST target neighborhood list for these types of services. Neighborhood development includes things like neighborhood facility investments. So these types of facilities either were supporting acquisition or construction costs to support community facilities, other types of neighborhood facilities, again, mostly in those nest target areas of the city that have been identified. We're also supporting neighborhood support services, things like employment training, and again, typically in those target neighborhoods. And then we also have another subset of housing activities under our HOPWA grant. So this is the grant for housing opportunities for persons with AIDS or HIV. And there's a number of different projects under this grant that we support, supportive services, things like case management for our partners. Tenant-based rental assistance is supporting that tenant rental payment as well. Again, short-term rent, mortgage, or utility assistance under HOPWA, and permanent housing placement, just transitioning into permanent housing services for that population as well. And then finally, we have our emergency solutions grant that usually focuses on a number of key areas under that grant. Prevention, homelessness prevention, rapid rehousing, so immediately getting folks back in to housing, and then shelter services and operations as well. And if there's any additional questions on emergency solutions grant, we also have our program manager for that grant available on the call here today as well. And that is the rundown of our proposed projects for the 2021 HUD funding. So now we will open it up if there are any questions. We're not seeing any questions come through the Q&A, but if there are any questions that you do want to ask, you just don't want to ask on the meeting here, Mariana will be reviewing the information on how to submit those questions or those comments, but we will pause for just a couple more minutes to see if anyone attending wants to submit a question in the Q&A. Okay, we're not seeing any questions come through the Q&A, so Mariana, would you like to review with folks how they can submit comments and access the materials again?
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. So as Rachel just mentioned, we are accessible through email, mail, and phone. If you have any questions after this presentation that you did not want to ask using the Q&A feature, additionally, we are accepting public comment on our 2021 draft annual action plan and the amended 2020 annual action plan through May 5th. Those comments may be submitted by email or mail. Any mail must be postmarked by May 5th. But we're always happy to hear from you. So please do reach out to us. We really do look forward to hearing you and want to hear your input on our plans. But if there are no questions now, thank you all for joining us, and we hope that you have a great afternoon. Thanks to all the staff who joined us as well. And I'll leave this slide up and hang out for a couple more minutes. If folks have any questions, I can help direct you to the correct person in the future or connect you with somebody on our staff as well. Just got to get back to the slide. There we go.